Should you fudge your numbers as the DM, or should you not? I've seen videos by DMs swearing off fudging your numbers. And honestly, I think the debate is a little silly. Fudging numbers isn't a ghastly sin that will make Tamora, goddess of luck, smite you down if you choose to do it. If you want to change numbers on the fly, then do it. And if you like to be the simp of the dice and follow them in all their perfection, then go for it. But in this video, I'm going to explain why I've seen some DMs are against it and why I do it anyways, as well as some amazing alternatives I use to reduce what I want to fudge numbers on when it comes to rolling for both roleplay things and combat. Okay, so the most common reason I've seen that DMs swear everyone should stick to the number is that it's about trust, and that's a wonderful reason that has great intentions. They say that as they trust the players to not fudge their rolls, the players also trust them. That the entire game is off of completely random dice rolls, and that'll make every situation unique. This often even goes to showing the players some rolls as they do them. And the idea, if your players come across the fact that you are changing numbers, that they'll be upset and the victories will feel hollow, and that they will feel like they have less autonomy as a player. That this moment where they find out will shatter the trust that is built at the table. And these fears are amplified sometimes off of moments where they've had players that have counted health pools. The idea that the player find out you changed the enemy's health pool, and they'll find your dirty little secret and the whole case will be blown wide open. And the intentions in this method is a beautiful circle of trusting each other, which I agree all tables should have trust, but I don't think you have to worry about it in this way. Trust is important, but I think the misconception here is where trust comes from, and what numbers get fudged. Trust doesn't have to be built only on the legal agreement stating that we shall honor the dice, follow the dice, and be one with the dice. It can be built by the understanding that the DM is on your team, that the intentions of every piece of fudge the DM makes for the numbers will be with good intention. That I, as a DM, am not fudging my numbers to take away agency, but instead to make the player's actions and choices feel grander, and occasionally fixing misbalancing, especially when one of my players can't make it and we're down a man. I fudge numbers, I fudge health, I modify stat blocks, I re-roll, and I'm proud of it. The key to this is just to always do it with your players in mind, not your own goals. If the player's crit and it leaves the monster with 3 HP, let the player kill it. The crit is going to feel way better and more epic of a final blow than the cantrip that gets cast afterwards to finish it off. If I'm just having the worst luck of all time in combat and my monsters just aren't hitting, which is making combat a bit boring for my players, I'll boost their attack modifier, or occasionally I'll re-roll the dice. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure good at rolling things lower than 5 for an entire session sometimes, no matter how many dice I put in dice jail, and an entire combat where I roll 2s and 5s just isn't going to challenge my players. Or sometimes someone can't make it last minute, and I don't have the time to change what monsters I'm using in the dungeon. That's alright, I'll just pull up the handy table in the old Dungeon Master's Guide on what their stat things roughly have per challenge rating, and drop each stat back a little bit to compensate. Now, the idea that your players might find out might still be scary, but here's the thing, it's only scary if you don't tell them. So put the real-life deception score away and just be upfront. In session 0 or before your game begins, let your players know that you fudge numbers, but that you will always be doing it with their best interest at heart, to make the game more fun. Because the trick to fudging numbers isn't to rig events or combat, it's to make moments feel grand, to make crits feel amazing, or to make combat feel difficult enough, or just to balance something quickly on the fly when you made a mistake, while not singling any one person out or taking away a strength or something a player felt proud of. It's to raise players up and never drag them down, and never to force them into something. Okay, so that's how I fudge in combat. but I'm gonna show you how I also avoid fudging most things, especially in roleplay. But first, I think we really have to go over that rigging stories can go wrong really quickly. Then I wouldn't recommend forcing things upon players. Remember, good fudge is made with sugar, spice, and everything nice. You need your players' best intentions to be at the core of what you choose to fudge, and not your own bias for the story's future. Additionally, if something is impossible for your players, there's no reason to fudge it. Just don't have them roll for it, narrate what happens instead. Like if your player tries to grapple and shove someone much stronger or bigger than them. And in the opposite, if something is a guaranteed success, still have them roll for it, but tell them it's just a measure of how amazing they do at it. Like a leveled bard is gonna do a performance well, you can negate the chance of failure entirely. At 1, the performance was alright, but not outstanding. Where at 20, it was a completely jaw-dropping performance. Real quick, before we continue the solutions, what am I drawing today? These are masks for a special weather event that happens in my Fire and Earthplane campaign, when the burning winds from deep within the Sea of Fire kick up and they drag hostile weather conditions far within the plane, causing the poor people of the lower city of Encombe to have to put up with conditions like burning winds, hot ashes that glow red as it flies through the air, hurting everyone who is unlucky enough to be caught in the storm. But the people of Encombe have created a magical mask with crystal eyes that give them protection against the storm, negating some of the effects of the storm, giving your players the opportunity for some sneaky shenanigans. And I'm excited to share my new weather and environment event pages with you to really make your elemental planes feel hostile yet beautiful over on my Patreon. If you've been wanting to try out a game in a new interesting world in D&D, or you just want some masks to throw in a shop or a cultist, this might be the perfect place for you. Go ahead and check out my Patreon, link in description. But anyways, here's my fudge alternatives that can actually make that bard's performance we talked about earlier even more in control by the player's actions. This is something I learned from my much crunchier version of D&D, 3rd edition. It's called Situational Bonuses, and they work great for alternatives to fudging contested rolls. Now, these are sometimes given by things like your feats having higher ground or being stunned and things like that in 3rd edition. But the DM can also award them based on vibes and backstory. And that is the thing that I want to focus on. That bards maybe already have advantage on their rolls for mechanics. And that's cool and all. But what if they did an absolutely amazing job setting the scene verbally on how well that performance went? Personally, I feel like they deserve a reward for that. Like my players recently partook in a talent show at a festival. They came up with an elaborate scene together where they would use their decanter of endless water camel to spew out water onto the stage, while the icy Dragonborn used his frost breath to turn ice sculptures, depicting the story our bard was telling and singing, that our sorcerer came up with based on her backstory, while our fighter and assassin hyped up the crowd. They put so much effort into this as a team that I gave them a +5 situational bonus to their contested roll. Advantage is sometimes given by mechanics already, but I think roleplay and teamwork should still be able to add on to advantage from mechanics. Situational bonuses were a great addition to Dungeons & Dragons, and I understand that they want you to not have to think about 10 million numbers and the different bonuses that they came from when you're playing, to make the game a little bit less of a math class. But I think roleplay and character lore-based situational bonuses still have a place when advantage is already used. Don't get me wrong, I love advantage, but sometimes I just want something a little more. Something that's not guaranteed, but is an even higher chance, especially if the player's modifier just can't beat the contested roll without a 20. I also want to throw out there that additional to situational bonuses, if it's a DC and not a contested roll, you can just modify the DC based on what your players do. Did they do something really loud and dumb while trying not to wake the dragon? Raise the DC. Or maybe they came up with some really cool tactics on how to make breaking that door down easier, so you lower the DC. These are great for avoiding fudge in roleplay moments and non-combat actions. But what about combat situations? What if a DM isn't great at balancing yet? The solution here is actually really simple, and I use it all the time. First, you need to identify beforehand if you think the combat might be a little too hard or a little too easy. If it's maybe too hard, make multiple factions of enemies. If the combat is looking like it's guaranteed going to be a total party wipe, and your party doesn't find getting mass murdered fun because you made a oopsie, no problem. Have one faction of enemies start hitting the other occasionally instead of your party. In fact, you can even roll for who they hit. This still makes it so that you aren't completely babying your players, but you do have a fallback in case things are getting a little too dicey. If you believe this encounter is going to be a little easy on the upper hand, and just isn't going to challenge your players enough, have reinforcements on standby that you can add in as you need them. And finally, if you fear killing your players, take a step back and just ask your players how they feel about death. And if they are alright with their characters dying, you have nothing to fear. If your players don't want their characters to die, ask them if they'd be alright just getting a questline to be revived. Or even just place something on your map where the players can revive each other at. That way, when you're learning, you can really limit tasks without trying to avoid this idea that, oh no, you're going to kill your party members, which will really help you improve at combat. Communication solves so many issues in Dungeons & Dragons. So don't forget to let your players' actions dictate the game, communicate with them about how your game will be played, and no matter what choices you make on how to deal with numbers, it's fine if it works for your table. If you've stuck around to this point, I'd love to hear about the last cool thing you and your players did, and have a fantastic day.